All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and spending some time with us. We hope you enjoy the show. So before we get started, we want to remind you we just started a new book. It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, and it's been pretty interesting so far. So we recommend you go pick it up. Amazon, wherever you get books, Barnes & Noble if they still have those. So before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop a comment down below. We hear about the conspiracies of Napoleon Hill. Do you have one? We want to hear about it. We've been reading about them. So drop them down in the comment section down below. And all the information you need about us and how to contact us will be down in the description box. So go ahead and click that and reach out. We'd love to hear from you. So this week we're going to be discussing chapter 2 and chapter 3. So we have different editions of the book, so our titles are a little different.
A little bit.
But they discuss a little bit different things, but they're along the same line. So it'll actually lead to some pretty good discussion, I think. So we'll go ahead and jump into that. So first, what are your guys' thoughts on the book so far?
I like
be real off the top.
In general, like I find it when I first got into law of attraction books, I loved it. You know what I mean? I think who wouldn't appreciate how to like develop your mindset and develop the character you need to become the person you want to become. But over time, like the more I got into like sales and network marketing, I learned a lot, but I also learned the opposite side of the areas where a lot of people don't succeed just by changing your mindset. And so I started to look into that side as well. But I definitely find a lot of faith and a lot of like gratitude when it comes to quote unquote law of attraction. I think it makes you appreciate what you have and what you want, and also the steps it takes to get where you're going, and also the steps that can possibly happen if you develop a devil within your mind and you let it control you. So there's a wide variety of how I think about the law of attraction, or like because I just refer to these books as like law of attraction.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Like,
you think this book is like a law of attraction book?
Secret?
Absolutely, yeah. It's because like I think how I identify law of attraction books is like if you change your mind, this should happen. It's like that's not true. You know what I mean? Like law, you should have faith in everything you do, but there's no guarantee in anything. Just because you change your mind and you have a better outlook on life doesn't give you a better outcome than someone else.
Just
that has
simply
like
the change of mind.
Yeah, and I think what book really like I like a lot from Napoleon Hill is As a Man Thinketh, because he says
him?
like, huh?
That's him?
It might have been Napoleon Hill.
I think it was James Allen.
James Allen? Who is it?
Yeah, it's right there, James Allen.
James Allen. So
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but why I like that book so much is because what he's talking about is like there's a negative person that in the corporate America, or like he used an example, but I'm just paraphrasing. Okay. There's a person that gets to the top by, let's say, doing shady things. There's a person that's sort of in the middle or at the bottom that operates in complete the good part, like integrity, respect. And he's like, why am I at this level, and why is this person at that level when they do all these bad things, or maybe the things that aren't respectful? And it's not that outlook that gives you your credibility or your status. It's the fact that like you two are just two different people, and you're at two different. And if you're looking at that person's success as something wrong, then what gives you the status or credibility to get to that person's?
So all that to say, are you taking this book with like a grain of salt, or just an open mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
So As a Man Thinketh, I like it a lot, just because it talks about the realist, like just because you have a positive outlook on life doesn't mean you're going to get the same outcome as some other people.
So you're trepidatious to jump all the way in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about you guys?
My thoughts on the book right now, I think it started off, kind of like with obviously the background of Napoleon Hill. I think we're getting into the guts of the overall arching topic, and the kind of how to outwit the devil, which we'll get into chapter 3 when he has the first kind of like interview with the devil. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm really loving the topics that he's describing, such as faith and what it means, and how to get overall success in your life, and where does faith come into play. And I don't know, I think it's pretty interesting so far for me. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think you touched on a really good part. I mean, my favorite part of chapter 2 was when he talks about prayer and faith. Like what screamed out of that for me is that it affirmed how I pray. Like I'm like when I pray, I'm just like I list all the things I'm thankful for, and I always go like, I'm so happy about my job, about where I live, that I'm healthy, like all these things, you know?
Right.
And like in the book, he talks about when he changed, like for some people, praying's like a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
For others, it's like dude, isn't it so sick that all these things are going right?
Right.
And then it's like, and then just with your own hard work, you go make your prayers happen, you know, like the best you can. And but because like your mind and body is aligned with like the doing part, it feels like everything's like a lot of times going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't, you go back to your prayer and you're like, I'm thankful that I'm able to eat right now and I'm not hungry. I'm not gonna go to bed hungry. You know, like I'm thankful that I have these things. Like, you know, and then like because you like acknowledge that you can be grateful, you have a better outlook and you fucking work harder anyway. It seems like to me, you know?
Yeah.
I agree with that.
That's an interesting way. I'd be curious to see the reader, the listeners, and the readers of this book. You know, how do you pray? Let us know in the description. Reach out to us. I think that was interesting that he talked about prayer as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's even a joke. It'd be like, Lord, please give me a Bentley. Lord, please, I want a new truck. You know, it's like, dude,
What kind of truck you want?
Yeah. You know, nobody. I don't think it's really even taught to be like, man, I'm so thankful to even just be like in good health. You know,
isn't it weird? And you know, I know we're gonna get into it, but I think a lot of the topics, like this book, is pretty. I would say practical. Like it's very spiritual, but it's like straight to the point. And I think Hill wrote it in that way. I don't know why, just because it's, you know, it's very just to the point. And I think the topics in this book require just a lot of conversation to be told.
Yeah. For me, I agree that I think with this one, it's not
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought, to be honest. We should cut that part. I'm still a little high. Sorry.
and that part. Right,
Don't think we need to say words.
bring it in right here.
Bring it in.
Right here. Okay, for myself, I think it's interesting because the book is written so different. We tend to do like these research books and then light book and then research book and then light book. Switching back to light book from JBP, like JBP's got every sentence you really got to hang on it and like dissect it. It seems like with this one you can kind of read and be like and then boom, you get to a point you're like, oh, I like that idea. Let me break that down. In terms of trying to research and extract what the author's talking about, it's a little different. And so flipping back over, I'm like, oh man, I'm almost bored. But when you actually sit down and really try to process the ideas and the questions that come up, it does prompt good thought. So I do think it's an interesting book, a lot different than what we started with.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
I think just to pivot on what you said real quick is like the thing with the JPB books is like sometimes it's such like a theory he's putting out there,
right,
that it's hard to even fucking get it all straight in your own head.
Yeah.
With this, it's just like it's fucking one thing. It's like, dude, just do the work. That's what it seems like to me.
JVP will be explaining an idea and be like, and another thing, and then like mid sentence or like back.
What I meant to say earlier is because of how like practical or straightforward it is. It's sort of you're sort of reading this book in terms of yourself, and it's very individualistic. I think JBP, coming from that book, it was more bigger world, culturally, big problems. A lot of variables in there. So a society and culture and individual history and stories. It's touching on a lot of things. I think this one's pretty to the core of like your mind. Your state of mind.
I think JBP, like, just a little, because I want to give a little 2 cents into it as well. Like JBP's book is like, I want to say logic. It's like you can look and point to something that's like, okay, well, he mentioned this here because of this here. It's like you can point to stuff. This book is like your own spiritual awareness of your own self and where you stand, and then you have to be able to dissect it within your own.
And
self.
it's because it's being described, like Hill's describing his own internal like dialogue, and you get an insight into his state of mind at the time because it's written like that. So interesting book overall.
All right, I'm going to move us forward with the next question of what's the big idea of chapter 2?
I think
go ahead.
For gratitude, at least for me, like
gratitude.
There's multiple parts that he talks about, but one thing that really stuck out to me is where he gives examples. For us, I'm not sure where it would be in your book, Jay, but for us it'd be page 44.
Okay.
He states, "I discovered that I possessed a sound body, which I had never which had never been seriously damaged by illness. I had a mind which was reasonably and well balanced. I had a creative imagination through which I could render useful service to great numbers of people. I was blessed with all the freedom I desired in both body and mind. I possessed an imperishable desire to help others who were less fortunate. It's like when I heard that, like when I think of prayer or like awareness of my meditation or like what I'm thankful for, I always try to develop a better way of being appreciative for my mind, body, and spirit, instead of stating, oh, like, I'm glad I'm alive. Like, I think it, within my own self, I always try and like, how else can I define to myself, like, why I'm grateful to be alive? And I think that was just a perfect example of like gratitude, the way he stated, like, I've never been seriously ill. I've never been in like a hospital bed dying for my life. You know, that's something to be really grateful for. So it's like when I read that, that kind of put the bow tie on the chapter for me, like at least chapter 2, like just gratitude. You know what I mean? Like,
you're thankful that
develop your gratefulness, develop your prayer, develop your thought process behind why you believe where you're at.
That subsection is called A New Way to Pray.
Yeah, a new way to pray.
A new way to pray. How about you guys? What do you think the overarching idea was?
For me, I got that faith is just crucial to someone's overall success or greater achievement in life. It's very important to your own success equation. It was a personal success equation, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, man. I loved that. I think this chapter gave me, I think, clarity of like what faith actually means, you know, even to me in my own way of, I guess, thinking, or my own internal dialogue with myself. How does my own faith come into play when I am praying, or when I just operate under times where I'm hitting like a low in my life, or things are getting hard, and where does my faith come into play? So I thought faith is the highlight of this chapter.
Faith, gratitude. You have anything to add to that, John?
If you got anything to add, then you can. But I'm with David. I mean, then Devin's thing is like number 2 for me too. So like that's the whole chapter for me.
Yeah, cool. Faith is important when times are hard, because overall, I think he describes it in the book like the great leaders that we think of in the world, they all went through some really, really hard times. And I think the faith and persistence kind of carried them through. Like it took Edison, 10,000 failures to get to his success. Yeah.
Right.
It's the courage to have faith. You know, like cowards don't have faith, and then they just never do. You know.
Yeah.
Like to have the courage to keep trying, even though you're stuck, because you're like, in a year, maybe it'll be better. But if I don't do anything,
right. The other self is leading with the faith at the forefront.
Yeah, at my job, actually, there's in the restroom, there's John Wayne art everywhere. I don't know why, but on there it says, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway.
Cowboy shit, dog.
I was like, dude, I love
that's dope.
I love that.
I love that.
And so the courage to have faith, right?
Yeah.
You're scared. You don't think that you can achieve it, but have the courage to saddle up anyway. I think that was so great. Yeah.
Right.
So,
go ahead.
I was going to talk about, mine's a little different, but if you have something to add, go right ahead.
No, I want to hear that part first, and then maybe we can go into.
So at the end of chapter 1 for my book, it started talking about invisible counselors.
Okay.
How much did it talk about invisible counselors in chapter 2? None.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the chapter of title was An Interview with My Invisible Counselors.
Okay.
So we get to meet the people that he keeps in his head to, it sounds crazy, but to keep in his head to have discussions with. But the way he describes it, and so I'm gonna say it. So in page 58, he says, "My original purpose in conducting council meetings with imaginary beings was solely that of impressing my own subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion with certain qualities of character I desired to acquire." So when I say invisible council meetings in his head, the people that he keeps in his head, it sounds wild, but the original purpose is because those people embody character traits that he wants. Right?
Okay.
And to run it by, so hey, I'm about to make this big decision. Let me run it by David Goggins. It's not like he's really running it by David Goggins in his head. It's because David Goggins has a quality that he thinks is that David Goggins embodies in his head.
Yep.
What would he do based on what I know from the person? How would he react, and what would he do?
Yeah.
And so you're trying to extract that character trait. Oh, I look up to this person.
Right.
I don't want to go to the gym. Let me run it by David Goggins and be like, quit being a bitch. Stay hard.
He's gonna tell you to join an ultra marathon, or else you're a pussy.
No. I'm gonna be like, look, step it up. What'd you do last week? You got to step it up.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
That's why I think we all agreed that David Goggins would be great to have on the council. But it's like, these are character traits we embody. So, I think last week I asked a little bit, and we kind of touched on it a little bit. But Invisible Council, we talked about David Goggins being on that council. I think we may have mentioned JBP as well. Do you guys recall?
Possibly. I think because we were talking about it, then we ran off on like a little tangent.
Yeah.
I remember what I said. I don't think I answered like these like a single person. I think immediately the first thing that comes to my mind is I think of you guys as my invisible council.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, like there's times where I'm like, all right, well, how would Devin do this, or how would Jay approach this situation?
Mm-hmm.
I think it works. It works pretty good with me. I don't think I think of. Well, I guess in a way, like I guess celebrities are like more like well-known people. Like I don't immediately think of David Goggins. Maybe when I'm in the gym,
right?
Like sometimes,
when the situation calls for it.
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking about revisiting it because we did, like you said, we kind of ran off on a tangent. Just if you can nail, like just rattle some off, and maybe a reason why as to who you would put on your invisible council and why, and what character trait are you trying to extract. Like last week we talked about David Goggins. What character trait are you trying to extract from that person?
Cool question. I mean, does that have to be an invisible counsel? Like, what if you have a real counsel? Like, if I have a real question, I would just call somebody.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Like, I mean, if I have like things to do with like management or money, I would call my aunt because she's actually pretty good at stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I have a problem with like, how to fix this thing, I would call my dad.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, okay. He's like, I hear your problem. Okay, this is how I would do it.
Okay.
So stuff like that. I have like family members and peers who I would call. Like if I have a work thing, I would call like a certain coworker who's like good at that thing,
Yeah. Okay. So even like immediate family, close friends, people can act as some sort of not invisible, very, very tangible counsel.
Yeah.
I think it's part of like a normal healthy life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder. I'm curious to the viewers and readers also. Let us know who is your invisible counsel. Who's the first person you think of? We're talking about JBP, David Goggins. If you don't know these people, research them, look them up. But maybe think of people in your immediate circle that is coming to mind right now. Because John's talking about people he actually knows.
Yeah.
My example is people here that I know.
I think I would even put Waka on mine.
Waka? Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like the mindset that he carries is amazing. It's almost like it's Goggins in a different aspect of the world.
I will say, there's like certain anime characters who like their mindset in the show inspires me to just want to work harder. Like there's like they're all like underdog loser guys who just like train to become the best pretty much. And I'm like, bro, if Asta can do it, like dog.
Yeah.
Do you ever? I have a question. Do you guys ever have a seat open for yourself, or the version of yourself that's like everything that you want to be, but that's like you're sort of talking to that version of yourself, and you're like, all right, David, I need you to. What would this version of David tell me right now?
Yeah, that's kind of what I live in. That's kind of like where I guess to put a perspective on it, that's how like my mind works.
That's how I see mine.
It's like if this is the best version of whatever field, or like this is the best version of everything in my life, who I could be, that's that person. That's sort of like who I look to like get
for guidance.
Because I think David Goggins, like I even find the inspiration in The Rock, like all these big names, but like who wouldn't find who wouldn't find this inspiration? But there's also small players like. Not small players, but people that you may not know. Like people watching us don't know any of us personally. Right. But I find like anytime I go to the gym, I'm like, damn, like what's David's like PR on this, or like how is John, like are you guys still doing the knee over toes thing? Like when I go to do squats, I think about like, damn, I wonder if John's doing it like this. So it's like I'm always thinking of other people of like, or when I saw Daniel, like the photo of you and Daniel in the gym, like Daniel has such a good start right now that like I see myself like if he's pushing himself, we're in competition right now. Like
Yeah.
I don't ever want to lose that
Healthy
drive.
competition, healthy
Daniel,
Yeah,
if you're
like
watching
healthy
this, you're my competition, dog.
Like it's like
This man's
people are working
so
harder than
strong.
you right now. You know what I mean? That want what you had at that age, and you may still be working on it, or maybe you achieved it and you need to go to another level. So it's like I'm always trying to like.
That's literally David Goggins.
Yeah. So that best version of myself that helps me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm definitely sitting at the table with everybody.
No, that's a really good question. I don't think I've ever, I won't say ever because that's kind of like overarching language, but I don't think I've never imagined myself having a seat at the table. Like it's
No?
always, I never really thought about it as, for myself,
Yeah.
my mental scape isn't like a culmination of people sitting at a long table, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
But if I think about it like that, you should have yourself on there. And it almost reminds me of, so speaking of anime, Naruto has a episode of where it's called the Shadow Clones, right? Meeting the Shadow Clones. So he clones them and they work all night. So let's say it's like 24 hours. And he refuses to break the jutsu to send them back, right?
Oh, okay.
And then when he's finally done with them, he's like, all right, I'm going to send you back. And they're like, you don't appreciate us. And it all comes down to he doesn't recognize himself in all of the clones, and all of them represent different eras of his life that he had to be this person.
Oh.
So he had to be angry sometimes, right? He had to be sad sometimes. He had to be the go-getter sometimes. And so you almost have to have how many seats and personalities and different times of your life that you were, how many of those do you consult with?
Yeah.
Right. And, when you think about it like that, I think that that's really interesting. I'd like to think about it more like that. And really that turns into input, process, output. And for me, I think it's more input, output sometimes. It's never like input, process, output. I think this whole chapter is kind of more about
that's what smoking weed's pretty cool at, dude. Like,
Okay.
I've been doing the whole, if you do it the right way, I've been doing the whole sober October thing.
Yeah.
Like, because I've been allowing myself, as like a Friday nights and Saturdays for a lot of fucking like,
Yeah.
And dude, like, I smoked my first bowl, and like I had just so many things. I was like, all these things like that. Like normally, I just am an input output guy.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one of the things why I'm successful, and like in ways because I'm very just like, I do the things. I know the things I got to do, and like the output is always 100. I feel like.
Okay.
But I don't process a lot of things. I'm just like, okay, that's another thing. I'll just handle it. But like I get high, and I'm like, I really try to break shit down. I'm like, I could do all this shit so much better.
Yeah.
Like
Dang.
just like social things, like how I'm
Do you have
teaching.
an example? Maybe that you were processing?
I was thinking about jujitsu class and like
Okay.
this thing I've been doing, and like I just got high, and like I thought about so much more things than
Okay.
like I normally would.
Yeah.
And I went into the next class. I thought I went to the next class better because I thought about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And because I needed to up my game in a certain area that I've been lacking. And
Okay.
instead of just like, I acknowledged that because I was high, and then I fucking spent 20 minutes watching YouTube videos, and then I went in and I was like,
Yeah.
even though coach hasn't taught me this, like I know what I was doing was wrong, so I'm gonna start just trying to do this. And like maybe I wasn't having success, but like it was a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Nice, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That processing stage is like the key, you know?
Yeah.
Once you've developed that routine and you're like, I get it, I've figured it out, and then to get pushed out of that and to be like, oh, maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way. Let me try something new, and then it actually works. Is that processing step it's crazy.
Do you think when you input and then output, instead of doing the not opposite, but the process version of that, input, process, output, do you find it that the process, like why, maybe like for you, Jay, like processing is a little bit difficult, or maybe it's exhausting in every aspect, because like to input something and have to process it every single time is
it's a lot.
like do you find that input and output is just better suited for routine? Like it's too much to have process in the middle of those.
Yeah, I think that's why we developed a routine, so we don't have to do the processing side of things. Like when you wake up, it's like brush teeth, use the restroom, shower. So it's just like I can be in mechanical mode and not think.
That's true. I feel that. I'm a fucking good robot, dude.
I feel that too.
Can you be a good robot? That's a great way to put it. Like once you develop the software for the robot to get through the minutia, then the processing is the part. I do a lot of that. As somebody that like has to read scientific literature, I have to sit there, read a sentence like JBP, process what they said, try to understand it, and move forward.
Yeah, and then when you move into your normal routine, everyday stuff, it's like I can't process all this extra
But
stuff.
I should.
All this new stuff,
Right? But
I just
should.
took in, yeah.
Because like there's things, if I were to just sit there and process a little bit more relationship wise, or the gym wise, or anything like that, if I were to just process it a little bit more instead of being like, okay, I found my robot, my routine, I could just robot here.
Yeah, I think that the only reason why I asked that question, because to me, the input output versus input process output, it aligns with faith. When you're doing anything new or you're taking in new information, you have to have the ability to like process that middle section, to process the input that you're receiving, because it's new information. You can't input output instant new stuff. And so when we're learning like about faith and how to jump into a new field or maybe take on more tasks, it takes a little bit more energy based on like mental, physical, spiritual, whatever, because it's new. And I think that's what a lot of people like try to stray from, is creating that process between input and output, because we're so routine. We want everything to be mechanical and like, if I do this, I can get this outcome. Well, like the new stuff that we try isn't going to work like that, because we don't know anything. We don't know the output. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. So
yeah, I think in that input output method, we have schemes in our head to deal with certain problems, and we just input, this fits into this box, here's the result, send it, and so I think a lot of people, including myself, just remove the processing stage altogether. A lot of people just like, okay, I've established a routine, I'm robot now, and they don't even like input output process. Where you put that process matters too. Like input process output is a delay there, so there's more time before the result
comes.
Input output process is, here's what I did, here's the result, what data can I extract from it, and how can I change it for the next input output. But some people don't have the process at all, so it's just, here's what I do. And that's how you fall into the person that is arrogant when they become a leader, is, oh, I figured it out, I'm a routine, we're robots, we know what to do, here's the robots, here's the plan, do the plan. The person that's like processing post or during is can be seen as a threat, because hey, I've already built this routine, dude, like
don't change
chill
it.
And so instead of becoming a better robot, it's like, I'm the robot. So that processing step, include it somewhere, if it's after or during. That including it's a lot more mental exhaustion. But I feel like the more you, just like if you run 100 miles, you have to run 25 first, right? And you have to run 10 before that. So it's like input that process and figure out how to do it. But that means you have to be keen to picking up results. Right? You have to figure out how your schedule is and what the robot does and how can it be more efficient.
Be a robot.
And that's the process that like a lot of us don't. Yeah, so I think that was just a good question.
No, it is a good question, because you're right, and John put a great point on it with the robots. I'm a good robot.
Robot.
Do you guys have anything else to mention for chapter 2?
There was a part.
No.
If you guys have something.
So in their book, it was a little bit more background information of like the story of Napoleon Hill, like leaving West Virginia, all that stuff. So
did they talk about a point where there's a part where he refers to every suffering is rewarded, every sacrifice is made up, every debt is paid. Did you talk about anything like that? Like where I think it's the subheading for giving. It's like
okay.
Well, it's called Faith Has a New Meaning to me, but he talks about for everything that you do in life, there's always so every good thing you do, there's always a reward. Every bad thing you do, there's always a reward. And what I heard was everything you do, every task that you try to accomplish or don't accomplish, there is a consequence on the end of that, bad or good.
Okay.
And so
you're succeeding at something.
Yeah, you're doing
the law of compensation,
the law of equivalent exchange.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I made a note.
Is that what he called it?
No, that comes from alchemy.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking of physics too. For every reaction, there's an equal.
The law of compensation, I think, is what it's described as.
And then he says, I seriously doubt that any man can avail himself of the benefits of his other self as long as he is steeped in greed and I don't know how to say that word.
Avarice.
Avarice, envy, and fear. But if I'm wrong in this conclusion, then I still have the unusual honor of being one who has found peace and happiness through a viewpoint that was not sound. He says, I would prefer being thus wrong and happy to being right and unhappy. And I was like, damn. So it's like anything you give to the world to service of anybody, like you should have I guess a good heart. Like the other day I gave a homeless person $5. And first thing that always comes to my mind when I give money to homeless people is, how do you know they're going to go buy something good with it? I don't. I can't control their actions. But like if I give the $5 to someone that like, hey, they haven't ate in a week, that's the heart that that's the good in me that I'm like thinking about. Because I don't know what the fuck they're going to do. But at the end of the day, the reward that they're going to get from it, I can't control. But the reward I got from giving that person $5 was like, hey, like, I worked for this money. Like, I want to give it because you seem like you're in a hard time. I'm not expecting anything in return, but I know life later on will be like, here's something. Karma.
Yeah, that idea.
So I love that part of where he talks about karma, bad or for good. There's always a opposite.
Yeah, like if you're lazy now, it pays back later. Yeah, I like that idea. I do like that idea a lot.
So I like how he put, I would prefer thus be wrong and happy than be right and unhappy.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, before we started recording, I think, Devin, you mentioned something really good. I think it would be a really good discussion point. Is that the belief that the devil is an external force and people neglect that it can be internal. Do you want to expand upon that?
That's a good one.
Because I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts too, but I think of devil.
Foreman has a question for me.
Okay. So when I was younger, I thought, like, all I heard, like, horns, bread,
Pitchfork.
evil, like monster type thing. But as I got older, I recognized the devil is your own awareness of bad and good, right and wrong. The devil is
the wrong side.
Concerned with your consciousness.
Okay.
It's not concerned with all this material stuff that we have laying around. And so I think most people that don't really look into faith or maybe not understand prayer or even say religion, because I'm not like a hardcore religious person, but I do believe in God. I do believe in faith. I do believe in prayer and having faith in yourself and your family and what all the union. Okay. I think we focus on external things because that's what we know. And we want to believe that right and wrong, the devil is going to present himself in the form of the external. Everything that we know is right and wrong is within ourselves. Like, the external world has no idea. Like, your right and wrong may be different from my right and wrong.
Yeah, very subjective.
And so the question I would have, like, for everybody, for you guys, like, if the devil is external or internal, how would you be able to, like, come to terms with the devil having grips of someone's, like, consciousness? Like, if it's external or internal.
External
right?
or internal.
Yeah, so if...
Go ahead, John.
It's like both. You know, it's like not one thing. You know, like he talks about it in the chapter 2. He's like, with every atom, there's a positive, negative side.
Right.
Yeah.
I am half of that thing, no matter what it is.
And this is chapter 3 when Napoleon Hill is interviewing the devil.
Yeah.
So it's like it's both. I mean, like maybe you can be corrupted, but also you could be like a lighthouse, and there can still be people externally that are like devil possessed, like evil people. Like I was like watching this show, I'm like, one of the characters like sabotage another one, and that's some shit you would always see in the kitchen. These fucking like people who don't want to see you doing good. They're like, why is this fucking person trying to like be better? And like they'd fuck them up on purpose. So it's both inside and outside. Like you can't control the outside, you know.
Yeah.
If you can, that means your sphere of influence is like strong. You know, like you're doing a lot of good things around you. So it's like both things.
Yeah, that's a really good point that he said. You can't control it, right? The internal one is the only one that you have a possibility of controlling. And like I think we've all seen the video. It's a advertisement that's going around. JBP's like, I'd much rather be acquaintances with the man that has a demon inside of him and knows how to tame it, or aggressive nature and knows how to tame it, versus the man that never developed it.
Yeah.
Because that internal struggle at some point is going to come up, and if it's never developed, then you're more likely to be fully.
That's why this jujitsu shit's so fucking cool, dude.
Really?
Like, dude, it's actually, it makes me so calm after. Like I get to go to like simulate a war like 2-3 times a week, like fight my heart out, you know, and I literally lose like all the time, like you know, like. And it's fucking cool. Like, I'm like, dude, that was so sick. Yeah. You know?
It's like, dude, you beat my ass so good.
Dude, I'm going to say some shit like that. Like, hey, yo, no homo. You beat the fucking
pause.
Just kidding. But, yeah, dude, it's like refreshing.
Yeah. Don't neglect the inner the inner devil, the inner demon that you have, because it will present itself either way.
Yeah.
So go find him.
Yeah, tackling like the way, because I do believe there's an external, but I believe that the internal is a lot stronger than the external, because the example John gives earlier about the kitchen, like if you are developing in a manner and you're trying to work your way up the ladder of any sort of like food chain or any sort of restaurant chain or whatever you're doing, there are going to be forces that are going to stop you externally, and then internally it's going to get to your mind. It's going to try and grip you and say like, you're not good enough, you're not doing it. But it started externally, and then you look at that person, they have internal shit, so their internal turned into external, which in retrospect turned into now your new internal.
They're they influence each other. It's an interplay.
It's like the atom. It's for every negative there's a positive, but you just have to be able to counteract that shit with like faith and belief in yourself that like this shit's gonna exist. The walls are gonna pop up everywhere I go. Like,
good point.
So
that's a very good point.
Just don't focus on the external bad shit that like you have a lot of power in your mind.
Makes me think of was it 7 Habits, the circle of influence?
Yeah.
Internal versus external. Dude, I see so much like commonalities between the books that we read about starting with thoughts and what you can solve internally versus externally. There's a lot of power, like potential energy. I've been reading a lot of stuff about physics and potential energy. There's a lot of potential energy in you.
Those nighttime thoughts.
Hi, watching physics videos on quantum entanglement.
I feel like I'll ask one more overarching question, and I'm gonna fine tune it. I kind of want to like target some things, and you guys are welcome to do it as well. But the overarching topic of 3, I think, is just the interview with the devil and trying to figure out who that person is.
Yeah.
But what did you guys enjoy that? How did you feel like it was fabricated? Did you feel, I heard you listen to the audiobook, so I'd like to hear your guys' experience with that.
I like the conversation the best. That's my favorite part of the book. I'm glad we're finally getting into that, because it's like not just verbiage being spouted. It's an actual conversation that Napoleon Hill talks about. If it's imaginary, if he talked to somebody, we won't know, but the conversation's really good. You know what I mean? Like it's based around the things like we talked about a few seconds ago. Like for every negative, there's a positive. The opponent that the devil faces every day is the God, the righteous human, the God, the positive in everything. But we let negative shit consume us so much that it's like it's easy to lean into negative shit than it is to lean into stuff that's like hard and righteous and like disciplined and I know best, but we're human. We're gonna fuck up. I mean,
so you like the conversation aspect of it and how it's like it's almost like practical.
Yeah, it's like you're just listening to a conversation or an interview, right?
Right.
Interviews are pretty popular nowadays. So.
Yeah, definitely. How about you guys? Are you guys reading it in the sense of like, hey, this is somebody's thoughts, or this is the devil, or how do you guys?
I don't really know. When there is like that little disclaimer, like no one knows like if this is his thoughts or if he like had some like spiritual experience talking to the devil. I think the real benefit is just from the conversation alone of what the devil in the conversation is just saying in general. Yeah. Then you can draw your own like, oh, okay, well, if this is what is being said, then I can use that to my advantage. And I thought it was super interesting, just because it starts out by the devil is explaining that he's nothing like physical in terms of like how we would see the devil. We can't even perceive these things on his plane, whatever dimension that the devil and God are existing in. I thought it was super interesting. Even the negative energy, the half of everything in the universe, there's that negative force. I thought it was super interesting. Just kind of like I think it's a good read for a reader who's maybe had trouble processing what the devil actually is, or maybe even what God is. This could give them like a stepping stone of like, okay, so the devil isn't actually physical. It's a different play on what we would, I guess, normally show, like visually. We can have a picture in our mind. I mean, I know we all read that in a human voice. Maybe it was like a little bit sketchy, a little bit darker, but even then, like the devil's like inside of your mind. That was pretty interesting.
Go ahead, John.
We have to do that. Like we learned that in the last book. We have to tell everything as a story. So of course we like manifested the devil and like made him like a humanoid.
Yeah, and movies too.
Yeah.
Fucking movies, turning devils and aliens into real fucking figures.
They're all dark.
I like how he's like, you need to describe me as your majesty.
Yeah. I didn't do it.
You didn't do it?
I just
You
skipped
didn't
that
read
part.
it? Really?
I'm not talking to the devil, but like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
to me.
That's why like I listen to the audiobook, because in the audiobook is like it's a demonic voice. It's
I
like,
think it's so interesting that he starts out with that. Like even the annotator Sharon.
Yeah.
And I think she describes like he does that to kind of throw the reader off, to be like,
yeah,
it's not your typical like the devil. Like the devil's like, no, address me.
yeah. How I
it's
took
weird.
that is like when we think of the righteous, like right versus wrong. When we think of right, we think of righteous king. Like they deserve their respect. They deserve their crown.
Why is he a majesty?
But on the opposite end, there's also a king or a majesty on the negative
That flip.
side.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah,
how can we give
interesting.
power to the righteous but no power to the evil side? Which I know we don't want to acknowledge that, but
To acknowledge
It's there.
it.
it's there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know.
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, I still.
I think
Go ahead.
I think they were supposed to do. Like, it's supposed to kind of get you like infuriated, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it either, you know.
Definitely
But
didn't.
like, it's like he's being a good reporter, like, you know, like a good reporter. If they would be like interviewing Kim Jong Un,
Yeah.
you would refer to him as Your Majesty, like your like ideology aside.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Because if you would insult him, he'd be like, "Well, interview's over. I'm the fucking Kim Jong Un, dog.
Yeah, dude.
I'm gonna fucking talk to you." You know?
Yeah.
So he's being a good reporter.
Yeah, I thought that it was interesting because the whole thing, like, is he actually talking to the devil? Is he not? It's like that question
cares?
seems like, yeah, it's like behind, because even if he did have the conversation with the devil, he's processing it and writing it down. So either
Yeah.
way, it's in his brain. So if I had to like take that part out of it and be like, okay, let's just imagine this is really happening.
Yeah.
So reading it in that way.
He brought up some good points.
Yeah.
The whole like 2-pack-a-day club.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, pretty ahead of his time.
Yeah,
And,
World
like,
War.
I mean,
Yep.
it's true.
Man.
Before World
Like,
War II was even
yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Even now, like people who smoke 2 packs a day, like you just see them and they look like their life's in bondage. Like for real.
Do you? I haven't really seen anybody like smoke like that. Like,
Bro, you need to fucking start going outside.
I see everybody
What are you
with like
talking- what are you
fucking
talking about?
vape pens and shit now. Like, I don't really see
One of
like-
those every 2 days.
I don't. I guess is there like even research on like do they
No, what's
have
your
the
mile time,
same
dog?
effect? Like 2 packs of cigarettes versus
either way,
2,
it's an
like-
addiction.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
Either way,
for
it's
sure.
an addiction.
Something has a hold of you that you don't
Yeah.
have control of.
Exactly. It's a
it's
so
large
weird.
temptation.
It's so weird when even the Your Majesty thing, I'm thinking of the devil as like some like really like bougie like celebrity. He's like, oh, I gotta have my water at this temperature or else the interview's not happening.
Yeah.
Address me as such.
Or it's not
wearing
happening.
a Gucci belt. And he's just fucking like thugged
Oh
out.
my God. Lil Wayne.
It's like, don't talk about Drake.
All right,
He's
on that,
Soulja Boy,
same,
bro. Dead
on
ass.
that same note, the devil illustrates to Hill how the habit of smoking and drinking are used to destroy the power of independent thought.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this, the devil's paradigm here?
It's very true. I think it's
Yeah.
it's very true. Go ahead, John.
Well, he says like his biggest ways to influence people is through fear.
Right.
And the 2 biggest fears is like money fears and like ailments.
Yeah.
So like being sick, like body ailments.
Yeah, yeah.
And smoking and drinking, if you do nothing to, at the very least, be a counter to those bad things, you'd only get unhealthier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faster.
So faster.
Right.
So like even now, you know, we're like in our mid-20s and I can see friends who they really leaned into the whole like booze thing, you know?
Oh, okay.
They look kind of puffy, you know?
Michelin.
Firestone.
Hand-cooked tires.
Yeah.
You know?
I
I'm sure
feel
they're
you,
not
though.
too happy when they look in the mirror, you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think it's what you said earlier, Jay, too. Like the decisions we make now are going to be called like the good actions we take now are going to be later.
Yeah.
The consequence later is going to come. And I think ill health and ill financial situations are the number 2 factors that cause anybody to make a decision in life right now. Like to do anything. If you're sick, you're going to go get medication. If you don't have money, you're going to go make more money, or you're not going to make money. And that determines like a lot of how you live your life and how you think. I think that's by far like the biggest fear that everybody has on this planet is like, do I have enough resource to survive? And am I able to stand up on my own and move my hands in the correct ways? Like, and if I can't, there's something debilitating about that.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because like you're saying, the two that he said, both of those items, drinking and smoking in excess, or like, you know, just in a way that shouldn't be done, contributes to both of those, right? Poverty, right? If I have an addiction, I'm willing to go into poverty to continue that addiction. And then ill health, if I know there's bad qualities that this will give me and bad health effects later, but I still do it. So it's attacking both of those in one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the overall like fear starts to grow, or the devil is occupying more of your mind at that point.
And I think something that was really interesting is really that boiled down to, you know, Napoleon Hill asked the devil, he said, why is it these two are so impactful to you? And he said, because if I can get them started doing this young, it lowers their barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Right. So if I can get them addicted to these things, then I can get them to do a lot of different things.
Yes.
And you can see how those change. Like now, it's not. I don't know. Like I still have the personal like opinion that like I think smoking in the form of vaping is still a fucking big
Cigarettes,
thing. But I think the problems have like altered to the younger crowd due to like social media and maybe like this fake reality. Like video games goes into that, like this online thing that people create characters behind when they don't really talk like that in real life. Okay. It's like the social realm of things, and like I think the devil lives in that shit.
Do you think the way he said it is cigarettes and drinking, at the time that might have been the top addictions.
Yeah, the top two.
But I think it might, if you take cigarettes and a drinking out of it and you just replace it with the word addictions, do you think it still plays and serves the same role and purpose?
No.
Probably screen time. Screen time. Just overall screen time. Like, take the word video games out. Like, fucking you go home or your parents like scrolling Facebook. It's fucking weird, you know? Like... You know what I'm saying?
No, I
you'll never guess what on Sandy said today.
100% like agree with.
And I'm the same way. I'm on fucking Instagram and shit. I'm trying to go to bed. I'm like, let me check Twitter. I gotta fucking like make sure we're not going to nuclear war right now.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a nuke coming. That's crazy. That's funny. Yeah, I scroll constantly through Reddit. It's got me right now. Kind of worse than TikTok right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
I had to delete TikTok.
Shout out to never mind. Don't shout out to TikTok.
All right, I'll move us forward. All right, so on the next question I have here is the devil mentions the 6 most effective fears, and we've mentioned 2 of them already, that he uses for mind control. That's verbatim. Poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and fear of death. Do any of these ring true for you? Do you feel the allure of any of these fears?
The money one.
The money.
Yeah.
I would say it's the same too. The money one and the ill health. Like I think that's why I put fitness and shit so high, because it's like if someone came to me and was like, tomorrow you're not going to be able to go to the gym for the rest of your life.
Right.
I'm like, or not even the gym, you're not going to be able to remain physically fit. Yeah. I would fucking start to like question my existence. Like,
really?
Fuck, bro. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna mentally go through this shit. Like, without being able to like exercise on some capacity. To
go for a walk.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of my livelihood right now. Damn. Like,
okay.
So it's
I think I do a really good job about like keeping myself healthy. So like that's not even a worry for me. You know, like I'm like I take all my vitamins and do all my stretching and work out every day. So I'm like the joke, dude. Like, what's your mile time? Like, I'm gonna be saying that till I'm 40. So like 50, you know. So like, I'm not too worried about that.
And your kid says it to you, you're like, "Fuck you, Johnny."
Yeah, fucking torching them. But yeah.
So poverty, ill health.
Probably old age for me.
Old age. Yeah.
Why does that scare you?
Good question.
I guess just getting older and having people take care of me if it comes to that. But I don't know if it would come to that. I guess that's what I'm initially thinking of when I think of old age. It's like,
oh, dude, you're so far. I mean, your parents aren't even there yet. You know, don't worry about that.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's a logical fear. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of right now. And then
that's what every birthday brings up.
Yeah, old age.
No, bro, I don't age.
I don't age. Yeah, black don't crack, right?
Yeah, hell no.
Like, Dad, don't.
Yeah, man, I didn't get your lotion shit.
Fucking in there.
Did any of
In
you
there like somewhere.
Did any of you have fear of criticism?
You know what? No, I love it. I love criticism.
Wouldn't it?
Me too. I like being barked at, dude.
As long as
Like,
it's construction, like as long as it's critical, you know, it's like
Yeah.
there's actually I can actually use this. You're not just being a dick, you know.
Me too. Actually, I've been getting a lot. I got my first stripe in jiu-jitsu, which is like was a big deal.
Nice.
Nice.
And like since then, the guys were really starting to take. I've just been putting in a lot of work, you know.
Yeah.
But when we're done rolling, they're like, "Hey, dude, X, Y, or Z," and I'm like, "Thank you," you know. And it's all criticism,
Hell
you know.
yeah.
But I'm like, "Thank you." It's like that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank
Yeah.
you. Like I ruined So I thought what I wanted to hear, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm TAing at a college, and and going through college, it's so surprising how little like criticism you really get. That's like critical that you can actually use.
Yeah.
You don't really get that too much in life. I feel like people are walking on eggshells because you don't want to offend anybody, but criticism's a good thing.
It is.
Right? Especially if it's coming from the right source and you value it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's somebody like, oh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this person's got, I don't know, black belt, and I value what they say, and because they're giving me feedback, they didn't have to do that. It's almost a form of respect.
Right.
You know? And so for me, that's not one that scares me. You know, it scares me. I embrace it. It's being the fool.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's being the fool. And some people that they're scared to do that. I've met and I know a couple of those people. For me, no, it's not me. I would say older age, I would say maybe. I would say for myself. Just because it's like, that's why I like the gym. You know, climbing gym activities, adventure, I'm doing it. Like, do it to get ahead. Like, you can get and be healthy like John's doing, like you're doing, just going to the gym to get ahead of it. You know, you're going to get old, but what type of old do you want to be?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel like that's not talked about enough.
Walker.
Like all we hear about is like
exactly.
when you hit 30, you're gonna start feeling in your back, and when you're 40,
your
you
legs don't
can't.
work.
It's because you don't fucking stretch. You're not mobile. You're not fucking. You know what I mean? Like you've delegated.
First of all, you don't do shit.
You delegated a lot of like that. I guess health responsibility to like maybe financial responsibility. Like you took that big part that should be there, like, and put it somewhere else. And like the older you got, like it's harder to be like stretchable, mobile. Like your fucking legs hurt. Like
Neglected it.
It's like shit, bro.
Dude, and most of the people that I see that are like, oh, you're getting older, things start hurting. I'm looking at them like, I don't know.
Shit,
Bro,
You're talking to a
You
dog.
look like shit, dog.
I'm like, I don't know, dog.
You're talking to
Not
a gorilla, bro.
What's your
Not
mile
me.
time?
Yeah. Not me, dude.
It's so funny that we say that. Most people, if you ask them, I feel like, what's your mile time? They're like, oh, I haven't ran in years.
About 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's the joke. People can say all they want, dude. What's your mile time? Oh, you don't run, fucking pussy. like don't like keep wearing your mask, dude. You know, like I don't know. That's my whole thing.
Oh, whoa. Cancel.
Got him. Huh. Hell yeah. All right. Go ahead, John.
One thing, because the mask thing led into my mind of like different thoughts. One thing I just wanted to go ahead. We're talking about fear and like how we were talking about like the devil is it inside outside.
Yeah.
And the fear normally comes from within, right?
Yeah.
Right.
This whole book is about like, well, maybe we're into it early, but it's about like, I guess, not mastering fear, not being paralyzed by fear is maybe the word, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
For this whole COVID lockdown stuff, it was like other people's fear who don't have like the best grasp on their own fear was projected and weighted on like everybody as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a weird thing. Like, I know a joke, but like the fat person at Walmart with the mask who fucking can't walk and she's got to drive the thing, like her fears, which is, can she get back into her car? You know, because it's hard to get in and out.
Yeah.
All of a sudden was like projected on me, and I was shackled by like fears that have like nothing to do with me. You know?
Yeah.
Like people were worried about their health and stuff, and I'm like, I think me and my friends are good,
Yeah.
and I don't know why I have to stop living life because you guys are scared.
Yeah. It's like along those lines of preventative versus cure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the criticism thing. Like, I feel like people only find they find themselves projecting their fears because it's like they haven't been criticized enough.
Yeah.
They haven't been told like, hey, you might want to fix this shit because if shit hits the fan, like you can't project this shit on other people. But that's
you're
what
gonna
people have
accept
been
me
told.
for how I am, Dev.
Yeah,
You're
like
gonna accept me for how
now,
I am,
like,
bro. And you're gonna love it.
and it's like,
You're gonna love
bro,
it. I'm the best I could be.
there cannot be a world where we can't criticize.
Wrong.
Others.
Wrong.
Oh, yeah.
If this is the best you can be.
You're fucked.
You're wrong. Yeah.
All right, here's actually an interesting quote. The last page before chapter 4 I thought was interesting. I want you guys to mention what you think it reminds you of. So this is the devil answering the question from Napoleon Hill. Let us get away from personalities. I came here to learn more about you, not to discuss myself. Please go ahead with your story and tell me of the many tricks you have devised for gaining control of the human mind. What is your most powerful weapon right now? The devil says, if I can start the world to killing on a wholesale basis, I shall be able to put into operation my favorite device for mind control. It is what you may call mass fear.
That's what I'm talking about. That's
Exactly.
what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I can get everybody scared, they'll do exactly what I tell them to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and remember the video Awaken JP we saw, where it was like a mass psychosis was to get everybody scared and then offer them one option to fix it.
Which one was that?
Awaken with JP. I'll show you later, but it's
We watched
anyway.
it before,
Mass
yeah.
fear
He
is
pretty
his
much
biggest
takes the whole
control.
world. Yeah.
Yep.
Mass fear, right?
fear.
And
Mass fear.
when have we seen mass fear? 9/11, COVID, big things like that. Like,
Yeah. Scary.
look what happens during those times. We let go of some of our freedoms, and you
The
never
Patriot
get them
Act.
back. And you never get them back. And because you get scared, and because you're a mass fear, I just got to manipulate you into whatever I want you to do, as long as it makes you feel good.
That was the whole thing, like the whole COVID lockdown, like because they really wanted to start implementing stuff like vaccine passports and stuff, and people were like, "Why? What's the problem?" It's like, don't you understand?
Right.
Like, that's the shit they would do in communist Russia. Like, that's the shit they do in China. Like,
Crazy.
what are you talking? And like, once that's into play, there's no like, take it back. That's it.
It's gone.
You only
Yeah,
live
it's
for it.
gone.
Yeah, it's gone, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't but people were
Yeah.
sheep.
If
They
you
don't
feel
think.
scared, that's the time when you got to think, yo. That's the time
Well,
when you got to think.
Yeah, he talks about it. The only way to beat me is to be a thinker. He's like, there's only like 1% of the world or something, or some shit like that. I
Yeah.
don't know.
2%.
Yeah, he said he actually describes who his biggest enemies are, and he says
Socrates.
Yeah, he said all who inspire people to think and act on their own initiative are my enemies, and he lists Socrates, Abraham Lincoln, just big names like that. So
I read that and I thought to myself, I was like, am I considered a thinker? Like, am I going against evil? I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
hope so.
think about it. Hell yeah.
All
All right, here's something I noticed, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on it. I said, do y'all find it interesting? First and foremost, he actually has the devil, right? That's what we're talking to.
The devil.
Right? What does he refer to as the opposite?
He hasn't said yet.
No. Okay, in my book, he says infinite intelligence. Have you read that yet?
Oh yeah, I read that part.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, he talks to Thomas, I think it's Thomas Edison, and he says, on this side, we are all gods. You remember that? No? Okay, so he's talking so he's having a talk with Thomas Edison and his visible council, and he's asking him about the afterlife, right? He says, is there a God on that side, right? And Thomas Edison said, on this side, on this plane, we are all gods, right? So we have a devil, but on the flip side, we only have an infinite intelligence. What I thought was really interesting is if there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? How do we have a devil that's an entity, but we don't have a God that's an entity in this book?
That's a good question.
Go ahead, John. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's like, okay, in the same way, like humans can't define what consciousness is, you know? Like we only have like a vague sense of what heaven is because like, it's like in theory, the goodest of good. And
Yeah.
like it's not based in reality.
Right.
Right. But like evil is, we see it all the time. So like, I think it's easier for us to like manifest what's bad and like what's good is infinite. Right. But like, it's it's not based like you can always be good or good, right? There's never like you did it 100% correct, you know? You can always like do it better.
Yeah.
Where like bad's really easy to define. You're like, hey, stealing's bad, you know, lying's bad, you know?
Yeah.
And like you could really easily draw someone that's like a villain, but drawing a hero is kind of hard. That's why we make them like fucking goofy with capes and shit, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that there's a king at the top of evil, but there's no king at the top of good in this book. He only talks about infinite intelligence.
He doesn't mention. You would think it would be God, right? He'd be
Yeah,
like
you
the
think
opposite
that
of
there
the
has to
devil.
be an equal and opposite.
He doesn't. He just says the opposition. He just does. He doesn't say, yeah, the God did this.
But even Napoleon
Yeah.
Hill himself,
Yeah.
right, says that he says in whatever infinite intelligence I was talking to, it wasn't whatever God I was talking to, and then it was I'm talking to the devil. It's not I'm talking to the infinite intelligence of negativity. Right? There's no flip to that. I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to know if you guys noticed it. But I get what John's saying too. It's like it's easier to pick out the negative because our eyes and our brains are conditioned to that.
Yeah.
But like John was saying, good can go infinitely. I think bad can go infinitely as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just like what's it, Archipelago, that from JBP's book, but he talks about how policemen become people that work for Nazis and kill people, right?
Yeah.
And you can continually go down.
I think about that all the time. I'm like,
You're capable.
yeah, dude, exactly. Like, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just thought it was interesting that he didn't, if we're just doing based on formulas and laws that we believe, then there has to be a God if he's talking to the devil, or he's just talking to a dark intelligence unit, you know?
I don't know though. Like, you know, science is about discovery and stuff, you know?
Sure.
It's like trying to, you know, it's like we're trying to figure out how this shit works, like the good stuff, you know? And like the person made a fucking math formula on like what equals good, you know?
Yeah.
It was like time. And remember earlier in one of our earlier things, I was like habits over time equals like a good life or whatever.
Squared.
Yeah.
I feel like Thomas Edison trying to figure out that invention, like in Elon Musk trying to like build these rockets that go to space. I feel like they're all trying to solve this thing that like they don't know, you know? It's like the equal better, you know?
Yeah.
And wasn't it described in the interview that when things like as technology progresses, sort of like, you know, we don't get as much ill health, poverty is, you know, a little bit better than it. Those are like kind of like the opposition as well, like the well-being of people, because their fear kind of diminishes.
Yeah.
If more people are scared about becoming poor, then the devil has more of a control over them.
I thought it was really interesting that he said that he feared the Rockefeller
Money.
organization.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
Whoa,
I thought that was cool.
Well, think about the time the book came out.
They had huge like philanthropy.
Yeah, they had
organization.
influence over the whole world.
Yeah, I was like, makes sense. They're painted in a real bad light now, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like, also, like you said, philanthropy. I mean, they changed the world just through money.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting part.
It is definitely.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to talk about the infinite intelligence because it goes both ways. It's negative and positive. But like, I don't know why he didn't draw a conclusion to like God.
There's just some things I think we can't
it's interesting, right?
conceptualize yet. You know,
That's what I've been trying to say. Exactly.
Yeah, we can't think about like, because if the devil isn't a human or physical thing in our reality, it's hard for us to kind of like put like labels on things or just even think about it. We can give it a face like, you know, like the red devil with the horns and whatnot, or even like God, you know, is he a guy with like a white robe on in the sky? You know, we're thinking of the very like human, I guess, portrayal of these things because it's something familiar. It's a face, right?
I think it has something. I don't know. When I think of infinite, I think of something that's on a like systematic, like not a systematic, but like I want to use the word systematic just for this, like systematic loop. Like it's on a revolving like wheel of just going back and forth. And I think when you find yourself in the wrong infinite, then that's where like you take the infinite loop and you like place good or bad in it. And if it's bad, then you're on this infinite loop of bad. But if you place good in it, then you're on an infinite loop of consciousness.
No, that's a closed loop.
Or closed loop. Like, isn't that the infinite
That's a
sign?
closed loop.
Infinity,
Infinite means it would just never end. Like
But
it would
keeps going.
keep going.
Oh.
Bro, you're talking about.
Let's say it's 3D though. You have a loop and then a loop, and then a loop, and then
What
a loop. You
isn't
just
the
keep going
infinity
up.
sign like a sideways
We're
eight?
talking about the
It's a
multiverse,
sideways
dog.
eight. Yeah, it's a sideways eight.
Just
But
kidding.
if you like take that, flip it on its side, one side's higher than the other, you just continually go up.
Oh, like a spiral.
It just keeps going up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it can go the opposite too.
exactly.
Because if it's
Exactly.
infinite.
It's you got a Ross end gun on your hand.
Maybe.
What are you gonna put in there? You know what I'm saying?
The word devil was used.
Dork alert.
The word devil was used to like market the book.
That's a buzzword.
Yeah,
you know,
devil.
to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting too because if we can conceptualize the ultimate evil, we have to be able to conceptualize the ultimate good.
What's the ultimate good?
God. If it's the devil is the evil, then it has to be God the other
What
side.
did we just learn about love? There's someone said something about love, or no?
Yeah. Anyway, I'll move us on. You think about that. Was there any quotes that you guys really wanted to mention that really stood out to you? And maybe we can discuss them.
Devin already touched on all of mine.
Okay. Let's see. I have a couple, but I'll just choose like one.
I guess adding
chapter
to
3?
the ones I have, like
Any of them?
yeah, any of them. The personal success equation says combining your passion, which is P, with your talent, T, and then seeking the right association and taking the right action are very important components for success. But when you combine all those components with a strong faith in yourself and your mission, you truly have your personal success equation. And the equation has P for passion, T for talent, and like maybe I'll drop a screenshot of like what it looks like in the book. But
Okay.
I think that was really cool. Like the end addition would be faith. Like you can have all those components of like talent, passion. What I think of is like you could have someone that's talented from birth versus someone that's a hard worker at like a young age. They weren't born talented, but they learned how to work hard.
That work ethic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The person that has the stronger work ethic is going to go a lot farther because they have the sustainability to continue to put the consistent work in.
Yeah.
The person with the talent thinks their talent's just going to get them somewhere, and it has to get them somewhere because they're talented.
Yeah, Jamarcus
It's
Russell.
like, nah, I don't like work like that.
Yeah, boy, you better get to work.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought this quote was pretty interesting. This is, let's see, what section is this? My Other Self Makes Good. That's what it's titled in mine.
Okay.
On page 36, at the bottom, he's talking about defeat and like temporary failure.
Okay.
And then this paragraph states, the other self follows no precedents, recognizes no limitations, and always finds a way to accomplish desired ends. It may meet with temporary defeat, but not with permanent failure. I am as sure of the soundness of this statement as I am of the fact of being engaged in writing these lines. So I liked that quote just because, you know, the other self kind of just does see no limitations. It's only the ones that you place on yourself or that version of yourself. And it always finds a way to even push through, I guess, the temporary defeats that comes with going on this journey of having the other self lead the engine or be the engine person. Because, yeah, man, I think temporary, like, defeat is going to happen in life. You know, everything that we set, like, just like the Edison example, right? There was temporary defeats all the way up until he got the one thing that led to his success at the time. You know, there was 10,000 failures, but he didn't really see them as a complete permanent failure. It was just a temporary defeat.
A building block.
Yeah. And I love that quote. That was dope.
Yeah, I like that too. I went to there's the NASA museum in Houston, Texas, and that's his
Nice.
quote. He said on the wall, it said, "Some people look at it as 10,000 failures. I look at it as 10,000 new ways of thinking."
Shit.
Fucking amazing.
And I thought that
Bars.
was just great because it's like, attack the problem, it doesn't work. What can I use from it? Next, attack the problem. What can I use from it? You know, like you have 10,000 of those, you're gonna get really good. You know.
Yeah.
So I love that too. I think that's so good. And everything's a skill. And that's what makes it so cool is that you're going to take defeat in everything you do. But as you continue to do that, your bar for success just continues to climb.
Yeah, he processed.
it's so cool.
defeat. Yeah.
Yeah, in everything you do. Like there's nothing you can't learn. It's what's so cool. All right, so here's mine. This is a question and answer, and I just want to hear your guys' thoughts. So he says, will you please pardon my rudeness, but I would not be able to look at myself in the face again if I did not tell you here and now that you are the damnedest fiend ever to be turned loose on innocent people. I always had the wrong conception of you. I thought you were kind enough to let people alone while they were living, that you merely tortured their souls after death. Now I learn from your own brazen confession that you destroyed their right to freedom of thought and caused them to go through a living hell on earth. What do you have to say to that? And the devil says, I never lose self-control.
Interesting. Self-control. I never lose self-control.
Yeah, he's saying when we lose self-control is when he starts to get us. And he's like, I never lose self-control, so I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah.
So he's even worse than what we think is because he knows what he's doing. Is that basically what he's saying?
It's not that he does it just to do it, is that he's doing it because
Intentionally.
he knows at this point right now your self-control is low.
He's like, all right, I'm gonna lead this the caboose.
So right now I can damage his integrity.
Yeah.
Right now
That's
I can throw out temptation.
The devil's great at tempting
Yeah.
and capitalizing on your urges.
I thought that quote was really
It's like
cool,
he
and I'm
never-
still pondering it.
He never takes the gas pedal off. Like he's always focused on like, okay, just wait till you slip up.
From the moment you were born, he's like, all right, I'm not hands off until then. I'll pay. He'll pay for his sins after that.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm gonna fuck with you right now.
He's making investments real early.
Fuck with you.
I think he's mocking you. I think he's mocking humans.
Let me hear that.
That's what I mean. Is like, he's like, I never lose self-control. So like, whenever we lose self-control,
He's greater than you.
no, whenever we lose self-control is normally when like we lose like wagers and like the devil cashes in. Okay, let's say like a health bar, and he's like taking away your health and adding to his or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Every time you lose self-control, it's like a whittled down of HP. He gets a little bit more.
Okay.
And he's just like, he's mocking you because he's like, I never lose self-control, so I don't see what the problem is. Like if you just didn't lose self-control, like I wouldn't even be an issue to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great breakdown, John. Great breakdown.
Yeah.
Great chapters.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed those. If there's nothing else for you guys to mention, I'm gonna take us out.
I think this is setting the tone for a really good conversation moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm like,
definitely.
ooh, now this book has me hooked. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Talk to the devil in you. Have a meeting. All right. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We hope you had a thought-provoking watch. We hope you enjoyed it. Whatever you were thinking, any questions you got, maybe you have something to interject on the conversation, please put it down below. We'll reach back out. We want to have some community engagement. And on that note, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell, let that thing go ding, and then you keep moving. You go down to the description box. You'll find all the information you need to find, socials, our contact information. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we really hope you enjoyed the show. So before we take off, make sure you remember, now equals tomorrow. Peace.